Let's talk about change of life. Has there ever been a moment in your life where things haven't been constantly changing? No. No. Do we want to believe there's been moments in our life where things haven't been constantly changing? Yes, because are we truly aware of all the changes that are happening in our lives all the time? No, but everything is constantly changing all the time. There's no doubt about it. Change is everywhere all the time. Will be, forever will never be absent from a moment of life. So any resistance to change that you may hold on to, okay, change that you can see, change that you can't see, it's futile. Resistance to change is futile. Because when you resist change, you resist enlightenment. Do you understand the true nature of getting out of your own way now? What is the biggest force in the way of our own exponential enlightenment? Us. Self. What we think, what we believe, what we hold true, what we don't want, what all that. Just resists all that. So, as we journey into this place of one within the one, as we journey into this place of unity within God, place of surrender, choicelessness, all of a sudden, that resistance just leaves, and at that point, the rocket can just take off. Why? Because you don't need to know why you know something anymore. If you learn something, okay, now let's just, so everyone get that change is always happening. Resistance to change is futile. It causes resistance. Again, that resistance causes an enlightenment to happen at a slower rate. Again, let's make this clear. How long do we have to be enlightened to whatever level we're supposed to be enlightened? Forever, okay? So it's not like I'm saying this because I'm in a hurry. But resistance to this process can cause an increase in what? Suffering, pain, disease. I'm all for living forever. I'm all for living forever however God wants me to exist within God forever. But I'd like to be at least open to doing it in a way where I'm not suffering so much, and maybe not at all. Because you know what? I really don't suffer much at all anymore. And it's great. If I do suffer, it's like a moment, it's done. And that may change. I may have experiences in my future where I suffer for a little longer than that. But you know what? At least I know what to do. So that's the resistance in change. Change of life. Life is always changing. We were babies. We became toddlers. We became adolescents. We became blah, blah, blah. We have all these different ways of labeling what the changes that life goes through. But it definitely goes through change. Does everybody understand, it doesn't even mean to some extent, does everybody understand that in getting in our own way, we're literally resisting the process that we're meant to experience? We're resisting the true purpose of why we're here, which is to be brought, which is to evolve into a higher space of consciousness. That's why when we started this class, it was all about evolution of consciousness. That we are part of something that's happening that's beyond our ability to resist, yet we try and resist because we believe it's the right thing to do, when everything around us tells us that it really, all the true forces of nature show us that it's futile. Everyone get that? Okay. So why do we do it? We're taught to. What else? Why do we do it? Habit. Stubborn.
We don't like change.
Don't like change. Okay? What's the biggest reason we don't like change? Because we believe that all change is taking us towards our what? Death. But isn't that amazing? It is. Yeah, it is. It is. And if we let it take us towards our death as it's meant to, this is just hypothesis, but I've seen it showing up in the practice my practice downstairs, that when people let themselves change, man, they don't get sick. You know, to some extent, you know, I've seen that cancer exists because people don't let themselves die. They're trying to be something that they're not meant to be anymore. They're holding on to being something they're not meant to be anymore. They're stuck in some pattern that's not meant to be anymore. And so this cancer brings about this life-death confrontation where they're meant to either go on as somebody else or they're gonna die as what they believe they're supposed to be. So to me, ironically, and this is just etheric and spiritual explanation, I think cancer is literally in life because there's many times a lack of death. That the irony is cancer exists because there's a lack of death in someone's life. They're not dying, they're not changing, they're not moving on, they're not letting go. There's a lack of death. Because we need that death to bring about new life. We're meant to do this. Everything in life goes through these processes, okay? So living this way is not only the great way to be for everyone around you, but it's a great way to be for your health. We have to change. Why don't we want to change? Well, because, we don't want to give up being ourselves. It goes back to our last class. Why didn't I want to change? Because I wanted my own life. Why? Because I thought that was better than being one with God. So I'd like to answer my own question. Why do we do this? Because we are convinced that being separate from God is better. That we'll live longer, we'll have more control, that things would, this is where our ignorance is in this field of content. We are really better being separate. That we're okay with praying to God. We're just not okay with, we'll do that. But when it comes to really being one within God and giving ourselves over to the rules, quote unquote, the rules of God, how to really be, how to really surrender, how to really know that you don't know what's going on, that's when we start to say, well, let's just keep it you and me. But the reality is, and I think all of you have experienced this, when you turn your life over to that oneness, okay, and you allow yourself to see life through God's eyes, through that space of oneness, is the world not a better place? Yes or no? Yes. Yes. You need to all hear yourself say that. Say it again. Yes. You are all the proof of the practice. You can speak. You can tell other people that are open and they're searching how to live their life in a healthy way because you are that truth. You didn't hesitate when you said it. You're not saying you have all the answers. You're not saying you have it all figured out. You're not saying any of that. You're saying that by living this way, from this perspective in general, it's a better world I live in. It's a better experience. It makes more sense. I'm not as sick. I'm not as nervous. I don't get flus. I've lost weight. I don't have diabetes anymore. I don't have back pain anymore. Please, don't count on me to spread this message. My whole purpose was to start making seeds of all of you, make you recognize that this basic truth is true and your life says it. That this way of living is a part of why I experience life in a better way compared to how I used to. That's the truth, isn't it? We can't be afraid to say that. We're not evangelizing. We're not shoving it down people's throats. We're just being open to when those situations arise, when we know someone is ready and we know maybe they're asking, maybe it's just the intuitive knowing, and we just give ourselves to that moment. I had another patient come in to see me today, and she said to me, we had a great visit, and she said, do you mind if I tell you something good that happened because of you? I'm like, you guys know, I'm just in my moment. I'm just in my moment all day long. I don't really think about what happens after you leave my room. I'm everything I can be with you, and then you go live your life, And I just know that I've done all I can to be the best presence I could in your life, and that's it. It's not about credit or getting any credit for what I did. I'm just present. I really can't take credit for anything at all. I'm only present because God allows it to be. But she was nice enough to say, I think you need to hear this. She tells me about this woman who came in to see me, and she was diagnosed with, terminal kidney cancer, and she was having a really hard time with death. And this was 3 or 4 years ago, and she came to see me. And, she tells the story. He came into the room. He didn't know who I was. He sat next to me. He put his hand on my leg, and he said, it's going to be okay. Just as I felt my fear of death completely fall away from me and he didn't even know what I was there for. That's just the power of presence. You understand? That's not me. It's the power of presence. I decided to be a presence in this world. I didn't decide. That's a silly way to say it. That's what I would say in the first class, right? I acknowledged that God was calling me to be a presence in this world, and I said, okay. You're all presences in this world. Take this book. Let it remind you of the presence that you really are. Take this book and go touch other people with your presence. I don't care if you ever mention my name. I don't care if you ever mention the book. I'm completely comfortable with anonymity. I've told you that. But I am not comfortable with all of you denying your presence in this world. That would be a shame. That, as a good teacher, I won't allow. This will be the word that resonates in your head. Be a presence in this world. Be a presence of change. Just be a presence of change by being change. You know, I have story after story from all of you that how you've changed and things have changed around you. People you never said a word to, right? Some people that changed just by how you changed when you started being different. You started dressing different. You started being more jovial or more honest. And all of a sudden things around you started to change. Okay? This is the truth. This works. And it doesn't require you to do anything but what you know is in the highest good. What's the potential all of you have to bring change into this world? What's the potential? Unlimited. Unknown. And that could be zero, right? Okay. You could bring zero change into the world. Oh, that's pretty hard to imagine. Right? Or you could bring an infinite change into the world. Does it matter how much or how little? That's none of our business. That's none of our business. I had no idea what I was going to bring into this world 20 incarnations ago in my life. I'm still finding out what change I can bring into this world. The main thing is you can walk away from the situation knowing that you were the best you could be for the highest good. So conscious incarnation, as I close on these chapters, I want you to know that conscious incarnation is all about you having no idea what you are and no idea what you can become. And not caring. Letting God's will decide. What is the potential of this consciousness? Because I don't have any idea what the potential of this consciousness really is. So I'm done trying to put a context to my consciousness. I'm done trying to frame myself in some type of reality, humanity, any of it. I am in infinite space, willing to be whatever is in the highest good. I surrender. And when you surrender your consciousness to the highest good, when you give up that choice to be anything other, as much as you possibly can, in whatever space of consciousness you are, it's fine. You know, it's whatever space of consciousness you're in, there are going to be perceived limitations, but that's irrelevant. You're practicing. That's when you enter into being one within the one. That's when your life is no longer your life. You are life. You are life. You are life presence.